Happy Wednesday, everybody. I am Lindsey Hall, and for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm an intimacy and empowerment coach. And for me, what that means is that I can't speak. Is that I love to help women deepen into. This is gonna be a long tea break, chat. If I can't get my words out. I am here to help women deepen in intimacy with themselves and with others, really own their power and their pleasure, and live a joyful life that they absolutely love. Hi, Shelly. I am stumbling over all of my words today, so good luck listening. And so I am here. Oh, I forgot that it's morning for you. What a lovely way to start your day. So I always come on and I do these weekly tea break chats where I talk about like what's been going on in my life in the last week. It's kind of like a week in the life of an intimacy coach, lessons I've learned, challenges I've faced, things like that. And then I answer your questions about things. And I don't usually plan these much ahead of time, but I was just spending a few minutes sitting here thinking about what I'm going to talk about this week. And to be honest, I'm struggling a little bit because the stuff that has been going on this week is like quite personal stuff. So I am going to talk about it, but as in personal with somebody else involved. So I'm going to talk about it, but I do apologize for the slight vagueness. Although, to be honest, that has been a theme lately. So if you watch these every week, you will know that I've been talking in slightly more vague terms. And part of that is because as I navigate a new relationship with somebody else, I need to constantly find and adjust and play with and to change boundaries in terms of what I can share on here. Because it's one thing to share my experiences and all the stuff that I'm going through and have been. And when I was single, that was much easier because everything I was going through was my experience. But when entering a new relationship, there's suddenly other people involved, and I have to be much more mindful about what they want shared on the internet versus what I want to share on the internet, which has very much come up in my co-parenting chats as well. So you know that if you've been watching for a while, I talk more vaguely about my co-parenting than I used to because, again, other people are involved. So I'm just, navigating that and hoping that you follow along for the ride of navigating the new relationship stuff that's going on. And I think actually it's a good lesson to come from that as well in terms of like if you are a online business owner or you've got your own social media platforms, it can often be a really tricky thing to navigate in terms of like how do I show up authentically and vulnerably and let people like get to know the actual me while also still having privacy. And everybody sets their boundaries in different ways, different places. So some people share way more than others, and other ones are like, oh my God, no, I'm not going to share anything at all. And there's no right or wrong answer to it. But I think the thing is that you get to set what you are comfortable with. There is no right or wrong answer. So share what feels good to you to share. That doesn't mean I don't encourage you to step out of your comfort zone, increase your visibility if that's something you're working on. And Shelly, I know that's something that you have been doing amazingly lately. And I love how you've been talking about photo shoots, like absolutely changing your world and getting way more visible and all of the like growth that comes from that. But I mean, more in like the personal sense in your personal life. So yeah, you get to set like what you share in that sense. So anyway, what's been going on? So yeah, the past couple weeks, if you've been watching, I know I keep saying that, but you'll have seen that it's been a heavy few weeks. There's been a lot going on. There's been a lot of relationship growth. There's been a lot of self-care, self-love, handling heartbreak, handling growth, holding space, observing what personal growth looks like. Really like leaning into what do I need to support myself during this intense, heavy time. And that's really been the theme for a few weeks now. And then this week has been lighter, and I am so grateful for that because I am so here for all the growth and all of the expanding and pushing edges and up-leveling and all of that. Like that is the point of all this. And also, sometimes we just need a little bit of a pause, a little bit of a leveling out and being like, okay, let me just, stop it here for a moment and like appreciate how far we've come and take in all the good stuff from it too. And particularly when you're doing this in relationship and there is so much growth and so much going on and all of the big stuff, it would be easy for it to get too heavy. Like if that keeps going, if all of the big stuff is like all there is, it could easily become kind of too heavy and feel like this burden and like, oh, I don't want to carry this. Like relationships are definitely work, but they shouldn't be like hard work all of the time. And so I am grateful that we have hit this new level, and it's like, and this past week has been, we can just sigh a breath of relief, and we have had fun, and it's been lighthearted, and we've gotten to really like reap the benefits of all the growth work that we've been doing. And so like this past weekend, I knew that we needed just some fun stuff. I knew that we needed, that lightheartedness. And that's exactly what we got. We went to a football game. So I don't know if you guys have seen the Netflix documentary called We Are Wrexham. Welcome to Wrexham? Something like that. But it's a Welsh football team, and it happens to be the team that my boyfriend supports. I just said boyfriend on here. And he always has. So he is a season ticket holder. Wrexham is the team. The reason I was mentioning the documentary is Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, who is the star of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I haven't seen, by the way. But these two stars, TV stars, movie stars, have bought this little Welsh football team, and it's season 2 of the Netflix documentary, like watching the growth of this team. But anyway, long-winded way of saying we went to the football game on Saturday, and it wasn't a home game, which is what I want to go to, but it's a lot harder to get tickets for those. So we went to an away game. It was cold and rainy and they lost, and none of that mattered to me in the slightest. It was fun to go. It was fun to get away. Like it was 2 hours away from home. So we had a day trip out. It was just exciting to go to the football and see this thing that he loves so much and to be in a crowd of people. I was quite entertained by the fact that this stadium was so small. It was like a little bit bigger than my high school stadiums, which I found very funny. The houses next to the stadium were actually taller than it. Like you could see the houses over the top of the stadium walls, which is not what I'm used to in like my ex's football team is in the Premier League, and so I'm used to like big crowds, and my university football team is the stadium. So the Wisconsin Badgers, I'm wearing my Badger sweatshirt. So the Wisconsin Badgers football stadium is the size of Wembley, which is the national football stadium here in England. So I'm used to American sport sizes, and then used to my ex-husband's football team being in the Premier League, which is the top of the league. So to go to this tiny little stadium where the houses are taller than the stadium was just hilarious to me. And within the first 2 minutes of the game, 2 balls flew up and over and out the stadium. So I quickly decided that I was going to be far more interested in how many balls were lost over the top of the stadium, because that just could not happen in the sports that I'm used to. The stadiums are massive. And sure enough, and at the very beginning, I said, I bet there's going to be more balls lost than there are goals scored. And absolutely true. There were 7 balls that went over the top of the stadium and only 2 goals scored. So all those people who were there, hoping for goals, just if you guys don't watch soccer/football, you'll know that there's not a lot of goals scored. And I need something to keep my attention more than that. So yeah, balls lost was my entertaining factor. Anyway, you're not here to hear all about balls lost in an English football game. You're here to hear about lessons of the week and stuff. So anyway, the point of that was we had a lot of fun, and you can I'm still cracking up about it. We also had some relationship firsts, which were pretty cool, and involved getting to know my boyfriend's family better. And this is the bit that I'm kind of not going to go into because I haven't actually discussed with him what I can share on here, and he might not want the whole internet to know all of the things, but we had some really cool relationship firsts, which can be really I mean, they're big and scary for any new relationships, but especially post-divorce. There's like so much stuff that can come up with people have long expectations of, or not expectations, but experiences, like with the ex. And now there's suddenly new person coming in and it's a whole new dynamic and it can be really weird and unsettling and like, oh my gosh, like it's not that we don't want you here, but you're a new person and we're used to the old person and how are we supposed to act? And does it mean that we're like betraying the old person, but we still kind of like that person? And it can just be like this massive mind-melting experience. And being the new person can be like, oh my gosh, I'm used to the old in-laws and now here there's new people and it's just, it's a lot. But it was handled so beautifully by all parties and just was like a really warm, loving, welcoming, wonderful weekend in that sense. And I put up a post last night about how I've been doing this experiment lately called letting my whole self be loved. And that means like all the versions, all the varieties, including like my examples where, when I'm wearing 4-day-old sweatpants and I haven't taken a shower or brushed my teeth, or when I'm hangry and there's nothing to eat, or when I was hungover and after a night out with my girlfriends and we went for a walk in the Peak District and I was failing miserably at my attempts to not complain. So all of these things that like maybe are not our best selves showing up and letting myself be loved even at those times. And that also that letting myself be loved, my whole self at all times, means in this fun stuff, and it means really practicing letting that love in and letting it penetrate. Because one of the growth areas that we were talking about last week was when he called me out about some of the walls that I still have up and some of the ways that I'm still blocking love in because, I have this traumatic experience and I've gotten divorced and I'm, there's still, despite all of the work that I have done, he called out, I think you're still holding on to some hurts here and that's stopping you from letting this develop and letting this grow and letting that love in as much as you can. I was like, oh shit, I think you're right. And it was so beautiful that he called me out on it. And so this week has been really a practice of like noticing those walls more and really taking them down brick by brick and letting that love in all aspects of life. So but this week, because all that growth work had been happening, this week has been like just such a beautiful, wonderful, and like easeful surrender to that. And it hasn't felt like the hard work. It's felt like just this, okay, you pointed it out, and now I'm going to let the love in. I'm just going to let it pour in. And it's been so nice. So nice. And like we've really, like it's helped our connection and our intimacy. And it's been good. Okay, I think that's all I have to say on that right now. But I will move on to the question that I got for this week, which actually is related to dating after divorce and moving on from divorce. So the question that I had is, how do you let go of the anger and resentment, feeling like you should still be together and that nobody else is going to fill that void? And when I read that, it just went straight to my heart. So first of all, I just want to say that I feel you. And you are not alone in that feeling by any means. So my first answer is, the first part of my answer is not making those feelings wrong. So not beating yourself up for feeling resentful or angry and not trying to like shame yourself into getting rid of those. Like, oh, it's been X long and you shouldn't be feeling this way anymore. Just move on. Not helpful. Really what I want to encourage you to do is to lean into those feelings and to let yourself really feel them and feel how that feels. Feel the difference of letting yourself feel those feelings instead of trying to like push them out of the way or dampen them down or skip past them. And then the next part I want to say is really when you're leaning into that feeling and you're really feeling it, I also want you to get close to that feeling and really start to, this is going to sound a bit woo, but like start to communicate with those feelings and say, all right, anger, you've got something to tell me here. What is it that you want to tell me? And let those feelings tell you what it is that they need to say. What are you feeling angry about? Which bits of this are you feeling angry about? What are you feeling resentful about? And let yourself get close to them, explore them, and get right down in there in the mess and be like, all right, what's going on? What do I need to know here? And let those feelings be the kind of trailheads that lead you to the things that you need to know. And chances are they're going to lead you to somewhere that needs some healing, that needs some forgiveness. Really big on the forgiveness piece here. And that's the way to like worm your way in and find that. So when you find the things that it's trying to tell you, those feelings are trying to tell you, like I said, chances are high that forgiveness will be a piece. Something that you are still angry and resentful about, that really holding on to anger and resentment doesn't hurt the other person. It only hurts us. It is a burden for us to carry, and it's heavy, and it eats us up inside, and it takes a lot of our energy that could actually be being used on far more fun things, far more useful things. But it takes up all that energy inside of us and clouds it and makes it all dark and icky. And if we can get to a place of forgiveness and release that burden, you can release that feeling off your shoulders. You can release all that icky, like unproductive energy, and you can free up so much of that energy for stuff that you can use, like I said, in a much better way. And forgiveness is not easy. I'm not saying it is, but it's so worth it because you are the one who will benefit from it. It's not letting the other person off the hook. It's not saying that what they did was okay. It's not saying that you wouldn't do something different. That's fine. But what it is freeing yourself to take back control of your happiness. Letting go of the thing that you are angry about means letting go of this old weight, this old burden, this old shackle. And you do have control over that. So making the decision to forgive, and whether this is forgiving yourself or forgiving the other person, but making the decision to forgive, and then really going in deep with that. So when I was doing the forgiveness process, I still have to come back to this sometimes, but when I was really deep in the forgiveness process with my ex-husband, it took me 6 months, and I journaled a lot about, I forgive him for this, I forgive him for that, I forgive him for this. And I didn't always necessarily mean it when I was doing it. Well, I didn't mean it at the time, but I knew I wanted to forgive for those things. So I just kept doing it. I kept working on it. And it was 6 months of work, and then it just clicked one day. It was like, oh, yeah, now I'm ready to forgive this and let this go. And it was this immediate, at that point, that decision point, just this release. And it felt so much better. And so really just going in there and getting to it and finding the parts that need forgiveness and continuing to show them love and continuing to show that love and really just making that decision over and over. And it's like I said, it's not necessarily easy, but it can take time, but it absolutely is worth it. Man, after my fumbly starts at the beginning, got in the flow, my words were actually coming, and now they're all fumbly again. It's what it is today. So yeah, that was the question that I had. I hope that helped. If you have any follow-up questions for this, let me know. This is, again, I stress this every week, but this is a chat. The whole point is to chat back and forth. So if you found that helpful, let me know. If you're like, no, that just opened up more questions than it did answers, let me know that too. What resonated? What made you feel like, oh, about it? Let me know all the things, and we can absolutely go in deeper and keep the conversation going. Okay, this was a reasonably short one for me this week, but that's what I had to talk about. So I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to wrap up by saying that if any of this brought up stuff that you want to talk about more, like I said, send me a message. If you are interested in doing any one-to-one coaching with me, I have spots available for that. So send me a message and we can talk about my one-to-one coaching options. I have kind of a medium-sized package and a luxury, all-inclusive, deep dive package called Elevate, and we can go into the details of all of those. You can also find them on my website, lindseyhallcoaches.com. Find me on all of the social medias at lindseyhallcoaches.com, Lindsey Hall Coaches. Not all of the social medias. I'm not on Twitter or Snapchat, actually, so that's a lie. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Those are the things that I use because I'm a millennial, not a young person. So yes, room for one-to-one coaching. And if you've got a question for next week, you can let me know that too. Drop me a message, send me your question, and I will answer it live next week on next week's Tea Break Chat, where hopefully I will be able to speak more clearly and perhaps a bit more concise. Probably not more concise. I always chat a lot. Okay, that's it for me. Have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next week. Mwah! Love you. Bye.